here's the agenda, well, the notice information. And now I'll go ahead and share the agenda. And the first person we're going to ask to give a presentation is Mr. John Britt, and he'll be given a stakeholder introduction. Are you ready for that, John?
I am. Good morning, everyone. Let me share my screen really quickly. So as I do at every call, I get to the great pleasure of doing a stakeholder introduction. And why do we do them? To get to know others on the call, build some connections that lead to collaboration, get ideas for new hobbies, maybe. Spotlight someone for 30 to 45 seconds, and just to have a little bit of fun. We ask everybody what do they like to do to relax or unwind, and they like to listen to music. The person on the screen is not the actual person. This is an AI generated person who does not exist in the room. Interesting facts: he can sing in his native language, which adds a special touch to his performances. Others may not know he once worked as a baker. And he's brand new to EMS, and he's extremely excited to learn about it. When asked what he likes best about his job, working with EMS data or in my job is the opportunity to make a real difference in people's lives and the community. Every day I see how timely and accurate EMS data helps save lives, improve patient care, and guide important decisions during emergencies. Like, we could almost make that our slogan at NEMSIS. That's so amazing. So any guesses? Welcome, Mr. Maminur Rashid, Policy and Program Analysis at the Kansas Department of EMS. Welcome. I have the next slide as well, so I'll keep going, or the next presentation. But if you have not been introduced, please take a second and scan this QR code. You can do it from your phone. In fact, it might be even easier to do it from your phone to attach the pictures. But as always, I put a link in the chat if you want to do it from your computer as well. And the next thing, since I am the next to go, is a short overview. I know a lot of people haven't used our cube or feel like it's a little bit clunky or hard to use, but it's really not. And it's really powerful. We've done a lot of tweaking to it in the past year. Ben's worked really hard to make it a usable device. I just want to show you some quick steps of how to use it. So first thing is go to view reports and public reports. We're going to use the public queue. It's right there, the EMS data queue. Next. And I'm doing this live. This is not recorded. So the next thing we want to go to is design, an OLAP report. Connect. Okay. Boom. So the first, let's take a really basic example. So let's take our research question. What's the most common complaint reported by dispatch? So quick steps. First thing, go to summary measures and select count of events. You want to know how many of something. Then go to the EMS unit dispatch information. If you can't find it, you can always search. EMS unit dispatch information. And click that. And voila. All of the dispatches. And for the past year to date and a year prior. So, with that, there was 90,444,881. And the number one is sick person with 15 million, followed by interfacility or transfers, and then falls. Or other, followed by breathing problem. So quickly, that took us, what, 30 seconds, and we have a great list of what people were dispatched to for the past year and 8 months. So there's a lot more you can do. And of course, this was just a very basic table that I wanted to show you. But if you, and I've made this offer before, if you would like to have some one-on-one, more in-depth training, feel free to create a help desk ticket and they'll get assigned to me and I can help you. And there's a great how-to guide on the web as well. There's several of them. Tutorials right here. And I've written one that you can use as well that has this example and 3 others in it if you would like me to send it to you. So please just reach out and I'd be happy to help. And that's all I have. So back to you, Monet.
Thank you, John. That was really helpful for those, especially who are not familiar with the queue. So thank you so much. Our next presenter is Josh Legler, and he has 2 topics. You're going to talk about interoperability update as well as the Schematron validator update. And Josh, I'll go ahead and turn the time over to you.
All right, thank you, Monet. Good morning, everyone. 2 topics today. The first one is an interoperability update. I'm excited to announce a new resource for interoperability, and I want to show that to you today. The new resource is an XSLT that will transform data from the HL7 Consolidated Clinical Document Architecture, or CCDA format, to the NEMSIS format for a patient's demographic information, their history information, and their insurance, the payment section, insurance, closest relative, those pieces. So the idea behind this translation is if EMS can get access through any kind of health information network to any CCDA or a patient they're treating, then this transformation would pull out the data that EMS could pull into their patient care report for patient info, medical history, and payment. So I'm going to show you where to get to this. This resource is stored along with other translation resources in a GitHub repository that is published by IHE, or Integrating the Healthcare Enterprise. So I'm going to start on the NEMSIS website to show you where to get to it. And I'm under the Using EMS Data menu. Down at the bottom is the interoperability, and I'm on that page right now. A little ways down that page is information about this GitHub repository that's hosted by IHE. So I'm going to go ahead and access the GitHub repository. And in that repository is a folder called Transformations, and that's where all of the transformations live for translating data between HL7 and NEMSIS, both directions. And there will be more transformations to come in the future. So there's a few that already exist there. The one I want to show you today is a transformation that takes data from HL7 to NEMSIS. We have several transformations that go in that direction. There's a couple that have been published for about a year now that allow you to extract hospital outcome data from HL7 documents for a patient who went to a hospital after being treated by EMS. But the new one is at the top here that takes data from HL7 documents into the NEMSIS patient payment and history sections. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that transformation. And there's some documentation about it here. And as you read through this page, you'll see which NEMSIS data elements are supported in this transformation. So a bunch of stuff from the patient section, a bunch of stuff from the payment section, and then from the history section, and some various notes there about decisions made about exactly how to process that data from HL7 into NEMSIS. The actual transformation file is up here at the top. This is the XSLT that does the work. In addition to that, there are 2 sample files. There's an HL7 CCDA file that was put together as a sample of how this transformation works. And along with that, what it would look like if you put that file through this transformation. This is the NEMSIS data that you would get out on the other end, and could then pull that in, inject that into a patient care report. So my perspective, my opinion is that interoperability should be something that where there's no secret sauce. that if you take some data from one source and you run it through some interoperability solution to transform it or send it somewhere else, if you run it through multiple solutions, you should still get the same results in the end. That's how interoperability should work, is that everyone implements to the standards and you get the same results no matter what tool you use. So these transformations, including this new one, they serve as a reference implementation for how you would get the data from HL7 to NEMSIS in this particular case. Various decisions made about how to process different diagnosis codes or procedure codes, active and inactive problems or diagnoses, all of those little nuances that you might find in an HL7 document. How do you process those to get it into NEMSIS format? And so I hope that this serves as a helpful reference to people who are doing interoperability. You could use this XSLT directly, or you might have your own process, but you can use this as a reference and see how closely your process matches up with this reference. So that is the new resource that's available for HL7 to NEMSIS. I just want to pause and see if there are any questions. Chris, would those would show up in Q&A if there was, right?
Correct.
Okay, great. Not seeing any new Q&A. Okay. If you have any questions or as you're reviewing this resource and you want to talk with me about it, feel free to contact me. Okay, I'm going to switch to my second topic now, which is related to Schematron. So I'm going to start on the Schematron page of the website for this topic. The NEMSIS TAC asked me to just give everyone a reminder about the Schematron validator that the NEMSIS TAC maintains. And so to do that, I want to set a little bit of background. And this information really is, oh, sorry, I'm going to pause for a sec. We do have a question from Doug Taylor about the data transformation. And his question was, will the transformation, quote unquote, overwrite existing PCR data in the same, oops, it went to answered now, in the same data element or what? That question would be up to whatever system is implementing this transformation. So this transformation would allow a system to get HL7 data and transform it to the NEMSIS format. Then how that data is brought into someone's PCR would be a design question for that implementation to make. So I think a practical or reasonable implementation would probably provide a user interface for the EMT to have a quick overview of the information that was obtained from the HL7 document and allow that EMT to then pull that information in and maybe make a couple decisions about whether it should overwrite or add to any information that they've already documented in their PCR. So some kind of intelligent UI there is what would be needed. Thanks for the question, Doug. All right, okay, so back to Schematron. This information really is targeted at people who create Schematron files. That could be state EMS data managers or the vendors who support them in creating their state Schematron files. From the Schematron page of the website, I'm looking at the Schematron guide. And in the Schematron guide on page 3, it indicates that when you make a Schematron schema, the Schematron schema itself has to be valid. Just like we validate NEMSIS data, well, if you submit a Schematron schema to the NEMSIS TAC to publish in your state repository, they're going to validate your Schematron schema and make sure it meets the requirements that Schematron schemas should meet. And specifically, that means that it needs to be an XML file, and it needs to comply with a RelaxNG schema for Schematron. RelaxNG is a kind of an alternative to XML schemas, or XSD. That's what we're really familiar with when we validate NEMSIS data. We use XSD. But for Schematron, we use RelaxNG to do that grammar-based validation to make sure that the Schematron schema actually has patterns, rules, asserts, text, messages, things like that. There's two other levels of validation. One is there's actually a Schematron schema for Schematron schemas, if that gets you confused. So there are some additional rules that are put out by the Schematron standard that says Schematron files have to comply with these rules. On top of that, then the NEMSIS TAC has published some additional rules that apply to Schematron files that are used within the NEMSIS environment. So those rules say, for example, that you have to use a particular coding for writing up the logic of the rules, and that's XSLT2 and XPath2. So rules like that are specific to NEMSIS are checked as well. So state data managers, whenever you submit a Schematron schema to publish through the NEMSIS TAC, the NEMSIS TAC validates your schema through these three steps of validation, very similar to how you validate NEMSIS patient care reports or demographic data. And so that validation is done. You can do it yourself using this tool from the NEMSIS TAC, and that's the Schematron Validator. So you can get to this by going to schematronvalidator.nemsis.org. I'll put that in the chat. It also comes up quickly in a Google search. And you can upload your Schematron file and see if it's valid. So I'm going to go ahead and choose a file that's not valid and validate it. So this tells me that my Schematron schema is not valid. I have some problems with the RelaxNG validation that I'll have to fix. I also have a problem with the ISO Schematron validation. And on top of that, I have a problem with the NEMSIS specific Schematron validation. So I can make those fixes and get that valid. The NEMSIS TAC is going to make sure my file is valid before they publish it. I'm going to choose a different one. This happens to be the Schematron schema that's currently out for the pre-testing, compliance pre-testing data. And this one, it passes all the validation steps. There's one additional thing that the Schematron validator does that is informational only, and that's the state Schematron checker. It'll give you a report, and the purpose of this report is to identify any rules in your state Schematron file that may be unnecessary because they're redundant with existing constraints that already exist. So for example, if you have a rule in your Schematron schema about a mandatory element, like you say, patient care report number cannot be blank. That rule is not necessary because the XML schema or XSD enforces that already. It already requires patient care report number to be there and to have a value. The other way you could have redundant rules is you could have rules that are similar to existing national Schematron rules. So if you had a rule that said patient race cannot be blank when a patient was treated, and that was a warning, well, there's already a national warning that says exactly the same thing. And so by having the same warning in both the national and state Schematron schemas, you're degrading the end user experience because they're going to see two warning messages that are just telling them the same thing, one from national and one from your state. Now, this does a pretty simple check. So just because it has flagged a rule as a potential duplicate doesn't mean that it really is, but you can look through it and make some decisions, and you might be able to pull out some rules from your state Schematron schema that you just don't need to have in there. All right, so that is the state Schematron, or the NEMSIS Schematron validator. Let's see. Chip said, when can we hope to get the rule about ePatient.25 patient sex fixed so it will allow for PN and NVs? Chip, I know you submitted a help desk ticket about that, so I think that Casey will be continuing to communicate with you on that help desk ticket. That rule operates designed the same way as the rule that we used to have about patient gender. So it's consistent with past designs. And then Peter said, despite NEMSIS warnings, if we want a specific message out to our EMS community, we should be able to do so. Yeah, the Schematron checker report does not say that your file is not valid, that it can't be published, anything else. It just gives you some stuff to look at to see if you have redundancies in your rules, redundant with national requirements. But you get to make the decision what you do about those. And Chip said gender didn't have PNs. Yeah, we have validation rules in the national rules around a few different elements that have PNs and or pertinent negatives. And if the pertinent negative is simply indicating a reason why the data was not there, then that does not satisfy the rule. So all national rules around elements like that have been designed in that way. But we could bring that, I think, for discussion with all stakeholders and decide if, if that should be enforced differently. But for now, it's consistent with previous rules that have been written in the same way. And I think Jennifer Correa said the same thing. Yeah, pertinent negatives. Okay, well, thanks for the slightly off-topic questions there about national Schematron rules, but happy to take those. Are there any questions about the Schematron validator? Or, continue to throw in questions about Schematron in general, that's fine. Let's see, one more. Is there a way to check a data set with a Schematron, like facilities match and such? So Lauren, I think what you're asking, if I understand what you're asking is, can you apply Schematron validation to a patient care report or to a demographic file? And that happens all the time. Maybe you could clarify your question a little, because I might not be understanding what you're asking. And a couple more questions. Let's see. Okay, Peter said pertinent negatives should be on more values. I assume you mean elements than currently exist. So that's a great design question for everyone for the next version of NEMSIS. And let's see, Drew from Creative EMS, you actually should be performing XML structure validation, then XSD validation prior to Schematron. Whoops, his question went to answered already. Let me grab it again.
Did you do
it? That is true. Yep, you'll do XSD validation before Schematron validation. Question, last time I checked for the latest national Schematron available, I did not see a revision that supports the new gender/sex elements. So yeah, that is the new one that has, it took away the rule about gender and it added the rule about sex. So that would be on the Schematron page, 3.5.1 critical patch 1 or 3.5.0 critical patch 5. These Schematron files here, so the EMS dataset one, this has the new rule about patient sex, and it does away with the rule about gender. So there's the new rule about that sex should be recorded when you had a patient and cared for them. Okay, and a few more questions. Let's see. Lauren said, if a state data set has 200 facilities, a way to match that all of those exist in edisposition.02, for example, custom elements in Schematron that don't exist in state data set. Okay, yeah. Yeah, that's a great thought. So there's additional checks that could be done on a state Schematron file. One of those checks would be that if there's a Schematron rule that restricts destination code or facility codes to a certain list, that list actually matches up with the list that's in the state data set. And same thing if there's rules in the Schematron about custom element data, that those custom element configurations actually exist in that state's state data set. The Schematron validator doesn't currently check for those conditions, but I think those are great ideas for some future improvements. Okay, let's see. Drew said he checked Git. Is it posted there? Yes, it's in the Git repository. Show you that. Getting a whole variety of questions today. So you can pick what release branch you want. I'll pick 3.5.0. and then Schematron rules. And these are the latest for critical patch 5. So Drew, you might want to just make sure that you've done a Git pull on your local Git copy to get the latest. Let's see, and Kevin said, is there a tool to check a Schematron file against a NEMSIS XML file? So in other words, to validate a NEMSIS XML file using Schematron. The NEMSIS TAC doesn't have a web-based tool for doing that. The NEMSIS TAC does provide a compliance web service and a validator web service that you can submit data to using standard web services, and it'll validate it against the XSD and the national Schematron schema for whatever version you're submitting. But there's no web-based tool for that. Okay, and then Jennifer was just clarifying Lauren's question, so I think we got that one taken care of too. Cool, so many questions. Any others? Great, okay. Well, I think I've taken more than my share of time, so I'll hand it back to you, Monet.
Okay, thank you so much, Josh. We rate. I see the thumbs up. That was great. Thank you. And thank you everyone for the questions. Okay, I'm actually going to go ahead and share the agenda. Okay. All right, so our next update will be provided by Bengie Alexandre. She's going to provide an update on the maintenance. You ready, Bengie?
I am. Thank you, Monet. Just wanted to share my screen really quickly. So the maintenance update will be July 15th to the 16th, which is next week. If you have any error messages or any other questions regarding the maintenance schedule after that date, or if you receive any interruptions, please open up a help desk ticket. If you're not familiar where to locate the maintenance schedule on our website, it's under technical resources. And there's a tab that says NEMSIS maintenance schedule, and all of the dates are provided below. If you have any questions, like I mentioned earlier, you can open up a NEMSIS help desk ticket here, or you can open up a help desk ticket by going down to the red banner in the right-hand corner of our website. That is all. Thank you, Monet. And I will also provide the link in the chat.
Thank you, Benji. We really appreciate your update. Okay. So the next item on the agenda is the monthly report, and I'll go ahead and share the website information. So the monthly report is listed under View Reports, Public Reports, NEMSIS Monthly Report, and then the June report is at the very top. And so this is a highlight of activities the NEMSIS TAC is working on or has worked on for the previous month. Some great information about the count of records in the database for the 2025 calendar year, the participating states, the participating agencies. Of course, we have information about our annual meeting, as well as the public release data set and how you can obtain that data set. The information is also on the website, but this is a quick way to just review several different topics, and it's a great resource to share. Then we have information about the past V3 implementation calls, as well as the public trainings. We have some information about we're still waiting for one state to start submitting version 3 data. And we have some information about the critical patch. I wanted to also provide a quick update here. There has been a little bit of confusion about the timeline. So we are allowing 90 days for the vendors to complete the critical patch, but this does not include the implementation. So vendors and states will communicate specifically about the implementation, but this 90-day window does not include the implementation, only the testing. Case definitions, updates about that. And then, of course, some information about research that has been presented, published using NEMSIS data. Then we'll go down here to all of the various vendor companies, software vendors that have completed compliance with our team. So this is the various versions here. Of course, the recertification dates have been added so that you can have a quick reminder when you need to recertify. And then I'm going to skip down to this part about Okta. And the reason I want to mention this is because as vendor companies are preparing to complete the critical patch testing, you have noticed that your accounts no longer work. And so the Okta accounts, if they're inactive for 60 days, if you know you haven't logged on, then it's an automatic deactivation. And so when you submit your ticket, you can simply say, my account has been deactivated, and that will let us know quickly how to get your account reactivated quickly. So go ahead and just review this information. And if you have any questions or if you have any information that you would like added to this report, please let us know. All right, and the next topic is mine as well. And so I'm just going to go back to.
Hey, Monet.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, just real quickly, if you could go back to that report. When we were at NEMSIS this year in the DMC meeting, there was discussion about how can we identify like high impact research that's being done using our state data or the national data, and kind of have an opportunity to kind of share that among our stakeholders within our state, or our providers, or for researchers who may be working at universities. We try to curate the list of research projects that are listed here. So Monet, if you could go down and just kind of indicate kind of where those were again. These published manuscripts are all peer-reviewed journal articles that appear in the research literature, the English-based literature. Great comments by Chad and others while we're at NESM. So like, how could we expand this a little bit with just a brief paragraph that may describe why I may want to read this or bring this to someone's attention within my state or some of the stakeholders. So we're working on that, but until that happens, we try to find the best research here that's done well, that's peer reviewed, and relates to directly to providers' care of patients. And so we'll continue to do that. But just wanted to call that out. Thank you, Monet.
Thank you, Clay. I really appreciate you adding that additional information. Okay. I'm just double checking the chat. I wanted to see if the comment from Drew was related to. Okay, that's been answered. Okay, I am going to leave this report and get back to the NEMSIS website. The banner, the second banner here is about the NEMSIS annual meeting, which is what I'm going to cover at this time. Big red button. Just a reminder that we're asking all stakeholders who are interested in joining us in Park City on August 26th through the 29th to please register at your earliest convenience. Want to let you know that we have 14 software vendor companies listed on the website that will need to still register to maintain their compliance. So just a gentle reminder to complete that as soon as you can. I want to let you know that we still have a few more rooms available at the hotel as well. There's about 8 rooms remaining, and I would love to get those filled. If we need more rooms, we could certainly ask them to add more rooms to the block. But at this time, I do have 8 that are remaining. I also want to remind you that the early bird price of just $500 for everything, including your meals, some of your meals, that expires on, let me look at the date. It's going to expire July 28th. So that's a Monday. And if you could complete that, your registration before that date, you can save some money. I also want to mention that we have a fabulous opportunity, a fun activity scheduled for Wednesday the 27th. And Chris Hoffman was so kind to post this on the website for me. So basically, we're going to Park City Mountain Resort. I'm going to add the link here to the chat, but you have an opportunity to choose either a scenic ride or a double play, which includes the Alpine slide and a mountain coaster. Here's some information about you should be in good health to participate in these events. Your ticket for this activity is included in the price of your registration. So if you could just go ahead and click on this information and let us know. We actually need 20 people to have a group pricing, and we are not quite there. So I would love for everyone who's already registered to go back and look at this information. And then I'll send this information out as well as we get closer to the meeting, just to ensure that everyone was aware of this opportunity. I want to ask if there's any questions about the annual meeting, because I'm noticing that our registration at this time is a little lower than typically for this time of year. Is there anyone who has any questions or concerns that you want to add to the the QA, or you can also send those to us directly by just submitting a ticket. Big red button down here at the bottom. We want to know if you have any concerns about getting to the meeting. So just let us know. We'll see how we can help you. I don't see anything coming in at this time. And let me see if that's it. Okay. Let me go back to the agenda. All right, so we also have an update from NHTSA. However, I do realize that Mr. Kinsman is not here today, so I'm going to ask Kevin Nichols if he can provide that update.
Sorry, go ahead. Thanks, Monet. Jeremy wanted us to pass on his apology. He is currently at the ATSIP Traffic Records Forum, and he is in the process of actually presenting at that forum. So he was wanted to extend his apologies, and I have a little blurb here I'm going to read to you real quick from him. So he's at the Traffic Records Forum. They presented on the traffic incident visualization, which was well received by the traffic safety partners at the state level. If you're a state EMS data manager, please consider working with your office leadership on participating in the traffic incident visualization. To learn more, I'm going to post a link in the chat once I finish this, or you can contact myself here at the NEMSIS TAC. There's been a lot of discussion at ATSIP TRF on data integration between traffic crash and EMS data. Jeremy would love the chance to chat with folks at the annual meeting or even via email or phone calls about any challenges or successes that you've had in integrating EMS and traffic crash data. They've also heard from a few states, FARS analysts, that they're having some difficulty getting EMS information in their FARS cases. And just for those who aren't aware, it's about eight data elements with that they are pulling into their FARS cases. So if you have any successes, or if you have any thoughts on the most efficient way to secure that data transfer to with the FARS analysts, Jeremy would love to hear about it. Thank you, Monet.
Okay, thank you so much, Kevin. Appreciate that information. All right, we have we have some upcoming meetings, and they are listed here. So the next meeting for July is on the 23rd. The NEMSIS TAC will actually be out of the office on the 24th for a Utah holiday. And then we have our August meetings. Our August meeting on 8/27 is canceled. I would also like to talk a little bit about our next public training. So in August, our training is canceled due to the annual meeting. But on September the 9th, we will have a training with Josh Legler. And I believe the update is also about the Git repository. So you can look forward to receiving information about that particular training. And at this time, we're going to ask if there are any open forum topics.
Monet, can I add one thing about the Okta password reset based on some feedback that we've gotten?
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
And then I will share the screen if that's okay too. So one of the things we realized was causing a little bit of confusion with the password resets is when you first go to login.nemsis.org, you'll see unlock account. If your account is locked, you actually need to put in your username and click next to go to the password screen and then click forgot password. If you select unlock password on that first screen, you won't get the password reset email. You have to enter the username and then click forgot password before it'll trigger the password reset email. That's something that, based on some of the questions we've gotten, I think is a little confusing, and hopefully that helps clarify that a little bit.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much, Ben. All right, back to the agenda. Did we see any questions or any open forum topics in the QA? Let's look here. Okay. All right, I want to talk a little bit about the breakout forums. And before I do that, I just want to thank you all for attending, because I know that after you go to the breakout, everyone leaves the meeting. So thank you again for your time. If you have any topics for future public trainings, please submit a help desk ticket. We want to remind you that we are definitely open to creating a new list of public training topics for next year. And so we're going to go ahead and let you know that you can join your breakout rooms. If there's any questions about the breakout rooms, just stay on and someone on the TAC team will be able to help you get into the breakout rooms. If it's not your room that you're supposed to be in, just ask permission to be there, be courteous, all of the things we already know how to do. So thank you again for your time. We appreciate you. We look forward to seeing you next month at the annual meeting, and have a great rest of your day.